Hi everyone, Tom Wolf here. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create this composite soundscape in Omnisphere. And let's use the orb. And the mod wheel. Okay, so as you can hear, we've got this quite complex soundscape. It's got this very kind of atonal edge to it, but it's also got this really kind of ethereal ambient quality to it, which is really nice. We've also, got this kind of scattered grainy thing that's happening on the orb, as well as a little bit of kind of lo-fi crusher in there. And then we've got a rhythm that comes in when we use the mod wheel as well. So this is a preset called Late Night In Suburbia, and it comes from my sound set Halcyon Part 2, which focuses on sort of ambient presets. So let's have a look at how I created this. Okay, so firstly, let's have a look at layer A. So on layer A, we've got a sample from the Omnisphere library called Vapor Chimes, okay? So that sounds like this. Okay, so as you can hear, it's got this kind of haunting atonal quality to it. So we're then going to run that through the filter. So on the filter, we've got this stick UVI preset, which is one that I've actually kind of made myself. So inside it, we've got filter 1, which is set to UVI 1. We've got filter 2, which is set to UVI 3. We've got them set to series, and we've also got the mix set to 50-50. So we're hearing an equal amount of both of those. We've got the cutoff offset on filter 1 just slightly above the halfway point. And then we've got the cutoff set to 0.281 there, a little bit of resonance. We've got the envelope amount completely off. Okay, so with that filter, that sounds like this. Okay, so that's just kind of changing the character very slightly, adding a little bit of kind of warmth in the sort of mid-range. Okay, of course, we've also got the envelope set up here. So we've got the attack set to just under 3 seconds. We've got full sustain, and we've got the release set to 2.5 seconds as well. So quite a long release, which is what we want with the soundscape. We don't want it to be too kind of jarring. So then let's have a little look at layer B. So on layer B, we've got this sample called Warm Air, which is a synth sample, and it sounds like this. Okay, so we've got this really kind of warm, gentle sound there. This is also going to be run through the filter, which is set to the same preset as layer A. So we'll switch that on. We've got the cutoff a little bit higher on this as well, though. So we've got that set to 1.74 kilohertz. So we're just kind of taking that airy edge off there. We're also not controlling this with the envelope at all. We're also running this through a number of effects plugins. So let's just have a look at what we've got there. So we've got the precision comp here, which is just kind of adding a little bit of warmth and squashing that a little bit. So we've got some fairly basic settings here. We've got the input set to 1.9, ratio set to 4.2, a little bit of sustain here, quite a long release. We've then got Studio EQ2. So what this is doing, we've got it set to peaking mode, and we're just removing a little bit in the kind of low mid frequency range, just below 500 hertz, and then we're adding a bit in the high mid frequency range, 3.5 kilohertz. So that's just going to kind of remove a bit of the depth and add a little bit more top to it. And then we're also running this through the chorus echo. So you can see we've got the mix set quite high. We've got the delay set to dotted eighth notes. We've got a medium amount of feedback there. We've got the rate set to 1.81 hertz, so relatively high. And we've got the depth set up to 100%. There we go, that just adds a little bit of extra ambience to that sound. We're going to ignore the imager for the moment, we'll come back to that. So then let's have a little look at layer C. So on layer C, we have this sample here called Psychopathic Whistle. Again, this is from the Omnisphere sound library. So that's quite a delicate kind of airy sound there. We're then running this through our filter. So again, we've got thick UVI preset there. And that's just taking some of the edge off there, and again kind of warming up the sort of mid region as well by adding a little bit of resonance. Okay, so these three sounds kind of make up the bulk of our soundscape, and they all work together to create this quite interesting sound. So let's have a little listen to all three together. So we'll switch those on. Cool, so let's see what each part is kind of adding to the whole thing, because this video, you know, is all about the kind of composite effect of the three sounds together. So if we remove our first layer, you can hear we lose that kind of atonal edge to it. We remove our warm air sample there. We lose that kind of warm sort of low end to the sound. And then lastly, our psychopathic whistle. So with that, it just kind of loses a little bit of its sort of airiness there. Okay, so that is kind of the cumulative effect of the three different layers. We can come over to our effects section, and on our common orcs, we've got a precision comp here, which is sort of just a glue to bring the three different sounds together and create a little bit of sort of warmth and make them sound like one sound. So here we go, you can hear it's just kind of thickening it up a little bit. So we've not got a lot of input there. Ratio is relatively low, and again quite a low sustain and a long release on that. We'll come back to the proverb in a little bit, but now I want to look at layer D. So obviously we've not looked at that yet. Let's mute out layer A, B and C, and we'll switch on layer D. Now let's turn that up. So on this layer we've got a sample called resonant raindrops, which sounds like this. Okay, so it's already got this kind of nice granular feel to it, but we're going to run it through the granular engine anyway. So switch that on, we've got it set to speed, and we've got the actual speed set to about 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way through. So what this is going to do, as you can see, we're actually getting some reversed grains here. It's going backwards, and you know, in this position, in the sort of speed position control here, this does actually kind of meld sort of reversed grains and forward grains as well, which gives it this nice kind of effect. We've then got the grain depth set to 3/4. We've got the intensity set to about 1/4 of the way. We've got quite a lot of smoothing going on here. We've got the spread all the way up, and we're not pitching these grains here either. We've got that completely off. We get this kind of scattery effect, and it's just kind of bringing out what's already there anyway. So we're then going to run it through the filter. So you can see we've got a preset here called Super Sweeper, which again is one that I've sort of created myself. So on filter 1, we've got it set to bound pass power 24 dB. We've got filter 2 set to an all pass, and you can see we've got this running in parallel with the mix at 50/50. So we're going to be hearing both of these. We've got the all pass cutoff set just slightly off there, and you can see we've got the cutoff about halfway, and we've got a lot of resonance going on here. So this filter isn't actually being controlled. This is just to kind of shape the sound. We've got the envelope amount off. So if I sweep that, you can hear this is a nice preset for just creating really kind of subtle, delicate sweeps. We had it set to about there, which is just kind of shaping it with our resonance and giving it that kind of edge. And then this is actually being controlled by the orb. So you'll remember when I played the preset at the start, when I opened up the orb, we got that kind of scattering sound coming in. So I'm going to turn the amp back down again, and we're going to show modulation, and you can see it's being controlled by the orb. So we're just going to unmute that. You can see when we use the orb, it's just going to bring in this layer slightly. So let's switch the orb back on, and obviously we want these layers going as well. So here we go. There we are. We just get that kind of delicate grainy sound coming in. So on our orb, we've also got the toxic smasher being controlled as well, which you can see here. So our orb is controlling the toxic smasher mix and the toxic smasher cutoff. So let's unmute those. And we'll come over here and you can see that the toxic smasher is on our layer A. So on our kind of atonal soundscape layer, we are going to be controlling this toxic crusher. So let's switch it on and you'll see without opening the orb, we've got the mix set to 0, so we're not going to hear it at all. But when we open the orb, we're bringing in the mix here. So it's going up to 50%. We've got the reduce set to 0.18 and we've got the crush set all the way off. No wave shaping here. And then over here, we've got the filter set to a band pass with a lot of resonance. We've got it set to pre, so it's actually happening before the toxic crusher effect rather than afterwards. And you can see we're modulating our cutoff here as well. So we've already switched that on now. So when we open the orb, not only are we going to be bringing the mix of the toxic crusher in, but we're also going to be giving it that kind of band pass filter sweep as well. So let's try that. There you go, it gives it that nice kind of lo-fi bit crushing sort of sound with that as well, which is a really nice kind of effect that blends well with those grains that come in. So then lastly, all we've got to look at is our mod wheel. So you can see here, we've got mod envelope 1 controlling the amplitude of our different layers. So if we unmute those four, you can see that they all kind of correspond to each other. On layer B, we've also got a mod envelope that's controlling our imager level. So if we come over to our effects, we go to layer B, here's our imager, okay? So this isn't doing anything to do with the stereo image. We're not panning, we're not changing the width of it, we're not doing anything like that. All it's doing is controlling the gain, okay? So coming back over here, we've now got the wheel controlling our mod envelope 1 depth. So when the wheel is closed, we're not going to be hearing any of mod envelope 1. But as soon as we open the wheel, we're going to be getting that effect. Here we go, and you can see that happening there. So that's giving us this kind of tremolo effect, but it's got an actual rhythm that's been mapped out within a mod envelope. So if we have a look at our mod envelope, you can see here, I've created this little kind of rhythm here using the steps, which just, you know, it's a nice little feature of Omnisphere that as well as using the envelopes as standard envelopes, you can also use them to create these kind of rhythmic effects. So instead of just using an LFO to create this kind of basic tremolo rhythm, I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting for this patch. So we've got it drawn out here. I've got it looped, I've got it synced, and it's set to legato. So if we press a new note, it's still going to continue in the same rhythm. And then as you can see here, we've got the depth being controlled by our mod wheel. Okay, and then one last thing on our mod wheel as well is our proverb. So we can switch our proverb on, and again, when we've not got the mod wheel open, we're getting 0% mix here, so we've got a completely dry sound. But then when we open our mod wheel, you can see here we're bringing in just a tiny little bit of reverb, okay? So we've got the time set to 3,327 milliseconds, size quite low, quite a long pre-delay, density all the way up, and then over here we've got the diffusion all the way up as well. So all we're doing with that is just adding a little bit of reverb when we kind of go into our rhythmical effect. So that's just going to smooth it over, blend it a little bit, make it a little bit more ambient and not too kind of staccato when it's happening. So there we go, and if we remove the proverb, you can hear it's a little bit more abrupt. Okay, so let's have a little play about with this preset then. Okay, so that's how to create the preset Late Night in Suburbia. As you can see, you know, it's quite an interesting preset. It's very much a sum of its parts, and it's got this kind of atonal layer, but it's got this warmth to it and this ambience to it. And by just kind of, you know, pressing one key and then playing about with the orb and playing about with the mod wheel, you can get these really interesting kind of rhythmical effects and just create a lot of movement with it, which would just work really, really well for a kind of sustained sound bed. So thank you for watching this tutorial. Hopefully you found it useful and you've had fun creating the preset yourself. If you'd like to improve your sound design game, there's a link in the description which will take you to my website, and there you can sign up for free tutorials every single week that will just help you with a range of synths, a range of effects plugins, and kind of improving your technique for sound design, and hopefully get you thinking outside the box and just getting a little bit more creative with it. If you like this preset and you want to check out more, it's from my set Halcyon Part 2, which features 200 ambient presets for Omnisphere. There's a link to find out more in the description. Until next time, take care.